You know, it's a strange thing, looking out at a world that seems to have moved on without you. Here we are in the year 2026, a time of machines that think, screens that never go dark, and a pace of life that would make a stampede look like a Sunday stroll. They told me back in the old days that the frontier was closed, that the world was getting smaller and more civilized. But as I look through the digital fog of this new century, I see a different kind of wilderness. It's a wilderness of the mind, a place where folks are more connected than ever, but more lonely than I ever was on a 3-month trail ride. People ask me, Duke, what place does a man like you have in a world like this? They think a cowboy is just a relic, a ghost trapped in a black and white frame. But let me tell you, the things I stood for, the grit, the integrity, and the simple courage to do the right thing, those things don't have an expiration date. They're as vital in 2026 as they were in 1860 or 1950. Maybe even more so. I see you all carrying those little glass rectangles in your pockets, looking down at them like they're the Oracle of Delphi. You've got all the information in the world at your fingertips, but I wonder if you've got any of the wisdom in your hearts. In my day, if you wanted to know something, you had to experience it. You had to feel the weight of the rains, the heat of the sun, and the sting of a hard-earned lesson. Today, everything is served up on a silver platter, instant and effortless. But there's a danger in that ease. When things come too easy, you lose the muscle for struggle. You lose the appreciation for the long ride. My shadow still falls over this year because deep down, beneath the apps and the algorithms, there's a part of every human soul that hungers for something real, something that can't be coded or simulated. You're looking for a foundation, and I'm here to remind you that the only foundation worth having is the one you build with your own character, one honest brick at a time. The Duke's shadow isn't about the movies, it's about a standard. It's about being a man, or a woman, of your word in a world where words have become cheap. I see people hiding behind screens, throwing stones at each other without ever having to look their opponent in the eye. That's not courage, that's just noise. On the frontier, if you had a problem with a man, you stood your ground and faced him. There was a dignity in that, even in the conflict. In 2026, we've traded that dignity for convenience. But you can feel the void it's left behind, can't you? You feel that itch for something more substantial. That's why I still matter. Because I represent the part of you that refuses to be tamed by a machine. I'm the reminder that at the end of the day, you aren't a profile or a data point. You're an individual, responsible for your own trail and your own destiny. And that responsibility is the greatest freedom you'll ever have. They call this the digital age, but to me, it just looks like another uncharted territory. And just like the Old West, this new frontier has its own outlaws, its own vast emptiness, and its own opportunities for a man to prove what he's made of. The problem is, you've traded the dust for data, but the rules of survival haven't changed a lick. You still need to know who you can trust. You still need to have the discipline to stay on the path when the distractions start howling like coyotes in the night. I see the way the world tries to push you into a corner, telling you what to think, how to feel, and what to value. It's a subtle kind of branding, and if you aren't careful, you'll end up belonging to someone else's herd. Being an individual in 2026 takes more grit than it did to cross the Mojave on a mule. It takes the courage to say no to the crowd and yes to your own conscience. I hear a lot of talk about artificial intelligence these days. Machines that can paint pictures, write stories, and maybe even think for themselves. It's impressive, sure, but can a machine feel the weight of a guilty conscience? Can it know the pride of a job well done after a day of backbreaking labor? Can it understand the meaning of loyalty when the chips are down and there's nothing to be gained from staying? Those are the things that make us human, and those are the things that no machine will ever be able to replicate. My shadow remains because I represent the human intelligence, the raw, unfiltered experience of living with honor. In a world that's becoming increasingly artificial, the real becomes a premium. People are drawn to those old films not just for the action, but for the reminder of what it looks like when a man stands for something. We need that anchor now more than ever, as the waves of change get higher and the shore gets harder to see. I see the way you folks talk about progress. You've got cars that drive themselves and houses that talk back to you. But I wonder if you've noticed that the more tools you get, the less you know how to do for yourselves. In my day, a man had to be a carpenter, a doctor, a navigator, and a soldier all at once. If your wagon wheel broke in the middle of the desert, you didn't call a service. You fixed it, or you stayed there forever. That kind of self-reliance is what built this country. But in 2026, it seems to be a fading art. You've outsourced your thinking to algorithms and your memories to a cloud. But what happens when the power goes out? What's left of the man when you take away his gadgets? That's why my shadow still looms large. I'm the ghost in your machine, reminding you that your ancestors didn't cross oceans and prairies just so you could become a passenger in your own life. They did it so you could be the driver. There's a lot of noise out there now. Everyone has a platform, everyone has an opinion, and everyone is offended by something. It's like a saloon brawl that never ends. Only nobody is actually throwing a punch. They're just shouting from the corners. On the frontier, we didn't have time for that kind of nonsense. We had a winter to survive, a crop to harvest, or a town to protect. We learned to judge a man by what he did, not by the color of his politics or the way he polished his boots. In this new century, you've become experts at tearing each other down over things that won't matter a lick in 50 years. My message in 2026 is simple: get back to the basics. Find a piece of ground to stand on, find a few people you'd give your life for, and ignore the rest of the chatter. A man who stands for everything actually stands for nothing at all. You need to choose your battles, and you need to choose them with the long view in mind. I've noticed that struggle has become a dirty word in your time. You look for the shortcut, the life hack, the easy way through every door. But let me tell you a secret that the frontier taught me. The struggle is where the man is made. You don't get grit by sitting in a climate-controlled room. You get it by being cold, tired, and pushed to your absolute limit, and then finding out you've still got another mile left in you. That's what's missing in 2026, the appreciation for the hard road. You've made the world so comfortable that you've made yourself soft. But the world is still a dangerous place, and it doesn't care about your comfort. Whether it's a digital crisis or a real-world storm, the man who has never struggled will be the first one to break. My shadow is a reminder that the scars you carry are the most valuable things you own. They are the proof that you were in the fight and that you didn't back down. I see the young people today looking for heroes in all the wrong places. They look at the stars on their screens, people who are famous for being famous, but who haven't ever sweat for anything meaningful. A hero isn't someone who looks good in a filtered photo. A hero is someone who does their duty when nobody is watching and there's no reward at the end of the trail. In 2026, we need a return to that kind of quiet heroism. The kind found in the father working 2 jobs to keep his family fed, or the teacher who refuses to give up on a difficult kid. That's the frontier spirit. It's the refusal to accept defeat. I may be a man of the past, but the values I represent are the only ones that can secure your future. Don't let the flash and the glitter blind you to the iron and the stone. The world changes, technology evolves, but the human heart and what it takes to make it noble remains the same. As I look at the horizon of 2026, I don't see an ending. I see a new beginning. Every generation thinks they're the ones who have finally tamed the world, only to realize that the world has a way of taming them. You've got challenges I never could have imagined, but you've also got potential that would have made the pioneers weep with envy. The question is, what are you going to do with it? Are you going to be the generation that let the fire of independence flicker out because it was too much trouble to keep it fed? Or are you going to be the ones who took the old values of the West and used them to build a new world? My shadow isn't here to haunt you. It's here to guide you. It's a reminder that no matter how much the world changes, the fundamental truths of honor, loyalty, and courage are the only things that will ever truly matter. The trail ahead of you is long, and there aren't many maps for where you're going. But you don't need a map if you've got a compass. And that compass is your integrity. Keep it polished. Keep it true. Don't let the noise of the world shake the needle. When you're faced with a choice, don't ask what's easy or what's popular. Ask what's right. That's the Duke's way. It's the only way to live a life that you can be proud of when the sun finally sets on your own frontier. I'm riding out now, back into the dust and the legends, but I'm leaving my shadow behind for a reason. Use it. Let it remind you of who you are and where you came from. You've got the spirit of a pioneer in your blood. Now go out there and prove it. The year 2026 is just another territory waiting to be blazed. This is the Duke, signing off from the crossroads of history. It's been a pleasure to ride this trail with you today. Keep your boots greased, your mind sharp, and your word unbroken. The future is a wide-open country, and I have a feeling you're just the person to lead the way. Don't let the machines take your soul, and don't let the crowd take your character. Stay tough, stay true, and most importantly, stay unchained. I'll see you at the big roundup, whenever that day comes. Until then, keep riding. The horizon is further than you think, but you've got plenty of heart for the journey. Happy trails, my friends. The Duke is out, but the message is eternal. Ride tall,